Antoine Fuqua's Michael movie looks to be officially getting a part 2, as Lionsgate has apparently taken meetings for the sequel over the last few weeks. The first film has been doing incredibly well at the global box office, and with that film declaring in the credits that Michael's story would continue, it was pretty clear that we were going to be getting a part 2 greenlit. So in this video, I'm going to be discussing the news that a second film is on the way, the new interview with Lionsgate chair Adam Fogelson, and giving you my release date prediction towards when we might see that second film. Before I get into it though, if you want to keep up to date on any of my upcoming videos on the latest theatrical releases like the recent Michael movie, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel, and turning on your notifications. But without further ado, let's dive into the confirmation news for a Michael Part 2. So it seems as though the speculation over a Michael Part 2 is finally over. Antoine Fuqua, director of Michael Part 1, and even the cast members of that film have hinted that a sequel to Michael is inevitable, but now we have an official confirmation. In a recent interview, Lionsgate chair Adam Fogelson said there's at least one more movie. Just speaking less as an employee of Lionsgate and more as a person who has spent a lot of time in the movie business, I was always excited by the possibility that you could make a more complete and satisfying telling of Michael's story if you weren't confined to only one movie. Fogelson continued saying, "From my perspective, it's important to try and give the audience an authentic understanding of who Michael Jackson was. So I think that can be done with or without some of what was in the third act that had to be scrapped. All the conversations that we've been having with all of the appropriate parties continue to go exceptionally well, and I would say that there is a ton of incredibly entertaining Michael Jackson story, and much of the biggest and most popular parts of his music catalogue that were not touched upon in the first film. We can also go forward and backwards in telling this story. There are so many other events that happened, even in the time frame of the original movie, that weren't touched upon. So we're very confident that we've got an incredibly entertaining movie that will appeal once again to a global audience as the pieces come together." Adam Fogelson further noted that the studio has 25 to 30% of a second movie already shot from the prior production activity, and so obviously that will have some benefit. He said they'll make sure they make a big and satisfying movie for a global audience once again, and they won't quantify exactly what that's going to look like. Now, director Antoine Fuqua did say weeks ago that they already shot a third of the footage set to be included in Michael Part 2. There are also images going around of actor Jaafar Jackson during this filming, with one of him taken during the Dangerous era at Neverland Ranch. And we know that a lot of the changes are going to be from during the third act, which had to be reshot due to legal issues surrounding the Chandler case and the Jackson estate. The post-1988 era is where the story becomes more challenging, covering Dangerous, history, Invincible, the allegations, the marriages, and being a father. It truly is the period to showcase both the triumphs and tragedies of Michael Jackson's later life. It was further noted weeks ago that depending on everyone's schedule, filming could begin later this year or in early 2027. This confirmation also validated something that audiences felt the moment the first film ended. And that's because with Michael closing in 1988, right at the height of the Bad World Tour, the story was only half told. The sequel is now entering the earliest stages of development, the phase where the filmmakers sit down, map out the emotional spine of the next chapter, and decide how to navigate the most complex, controversial, and transformative years of MJ's life. So Part 2 really has the opportunity to explore how Michael navigated fame at its most suffocating, creativity at its most ambitious, and media scrutiny at its most unforgiving. The fact that meetings for a second film are now happening means that the studio is wasting no time capitalizing on the momentum of the first film's success. And speaking of that success, the film is currently up to $800 million at the worldwide box office, smashing projections and showing no signs of slowing down. It's very likely to top Bohemian Rhapsody's music biopic record over the coming months and become the biggest biopic of all time at the global box office. So based on all this news, when do I think is a likely time frame for when we might see a Michael Part 2? Well, again, when we talk about a potential release date for Part 2, the first thing we have to acknowledge is that this sequel is being built under unusual circumstances. The first film didn't just wrap production and move on, it had to refilm moments from its third act due to legal issues surrounding the depiction of the allegations. That alone pushed the post-production timeline far beyond what Lionsgate originally planned. And now with the sequel officially confirmed and early meetings happening for it, the question becomes, how does that disrupt schedule affect the timeline for Part 2? Well, I think the answer is that it all pushes things towards a long-form production cycle, one that mirrors the scale of the story they're trying to complete. And that's why the release date for the next film is less about rushing to capitalize on the first film's success and more about aligning the creative, legal, and logistical pieces into place. With filming rumoured to begin later this year, I think we're looking at a production that would run into most of 2027, followed by a lengthy post-production phase of editing, sound design, visual effects, and colour grading. That timeline naturally points to a 2028 release date at the earliest. But if filming doesn't begin until 2027, then the sequel timeline shifts again, one that realistically pushes the release of the film back to 2029. Another factor shaping the release date is the box office performance of the first film. Lionsgate now knows that they have a financially viable Michael film, and I think that means they'll want to position Part 2 in a prime release slot, one of a similar strategy to the first movie. They'll also want enough distance from the first film to build anticipation without letting the momentum fade. So a 2 to 3 year gap is standard for major studio sequels, especially ones that require heavy research, legal vetting, and large-scale production. So that again points directly to 2028 or 2029, as the studio can market the film as the long-awaited conclusion of a story that audiences already invested in, while giving the creative team the time they need to put together a film worthy of the second half of Michael Jackson's life. So when we talk about a potential release date for the film, the most realistic window based on everything we know about the filming schedule, the legal complexities, and the scale of the story is probably 2028 at the earliest, with 2029 being the safer, more probable target. And I think it will likely be released in March of one of those years, just like the first film did. Yes, that is a long wait, but it's the kind of wait that signals ambition rather than hesitation. Michael Part 2 isn't just another sequel, it's the continuation of one of the most extraordinary and challenging stories in modern music history. And if the filmmaker, whoever that is, the creative team, and the studio take the time they need, the result could be something powerful, definitive, and worth all of the anticipation. But that was my video discussing the announcement of Michael Part 2. I'm sure we will get more announcements for the film in the year or so ahead, but it's good to know that soon after the release of Part 1 that we are getting that second film sometime in the near future. But what are your thoughts on the greenlighting of Michael Part 2, and how would you like to see certain elements from the second half of Michael Jackson's life adapted for the big screen? Let me know down below in the comment section. For much more videos and breakdowns, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like, rating, and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.